Welcome everybody once again to another episode of B&B Hockey Talk around the NHL. I'm Aaron Bloxel with my co-host, Mr. Matt Balzer. Welcome back everybody. Remember to smash that subscribe button, smash the like button, whether you're watching on YouTube or on Facebook. And of course, Facebook page is where we post a lot of highlights and news as well. Matt, let's start it off. This week, the NHL has named their 3 stars.
Yes. So the third star of the week from the Buffalo Sabres, Carter Hutton, played in 2 games and had back-to-back shutouts, including a 47-save shutout against the Los Angeles Kings. He's 5-0 to start the season with a .953 save percentage. As Buffalo, they just keep on rolling. So we'll see if they can keep it going. But it's nice to see.
He threw a good blocker punch too.
Oh no, that was Ullmark.
Ullmark.
Yeah,
all right.
Yeah. I think they've actually been splitting the games so far, because it's like you think you'd keep riding Hutton with the way he's been playing, but they sort of been going back and forth so far this season. The second star, this guy's been absolutely ripping it up. John Carlson with the Washington Capitals, 4 games, 1 goal, and 8 points. He had consecutive 3-point games, and he had the game-winning goal against the Toronto Maple Leafs. He leads the league in points and assists. He has 18 points in 10 games, which is 1 more than Connor McDavid right now. And just to put his start in perspective for defenseman-wise, he's tied for his second for the fastest start in the first 10 games by an NHL defenseman. He's tied with Bobby Orr, who did it twice, who gained 18 points in the first 10 games. And the first place guy, Paul Coffey, had 3 goals and 20 points in the first 10 games of the season with the Pittsburgh Penguins in the 88-89 season. So just to put off like just how good he's been this year, it's like, yeah, if you're saying Paul Coffey and Bobby Orr's name in the same sentence, you're doing pretty good there. So, and then the first star of the week from the Boston Bruins, David Pastrnak, who went off for 7 goals and 9 points in just 3 games, including a 4-goal game against the Anaheim Ducks. He is now up to 9 goals and 15 points in 8 games. He's tied with James Neal for the league lead in goals so far this season. And basically just about every game you see like Marchand and Pastrnak just combining for at least like a couple goals so far, it seems like every game. But yeah, those are the 3 stars of the week.
Excellent. We also have a few signings that have happened. Florida signed a big free agent, and as well New Jersey signs one of their stars to a long-term contract.
Yeah, so far we've seen a lot of these next year RFAs getting locked up long-term. And New Jersey's the next team to get that settled. They signed Nico Hischier to a 7-year, $50.75 million contract extension, which kicks in next season. That's a $7.25 million cap hit. I think the number is sort of like around what Clayton Keller and Kyle Connor got with Arizona and Winnipeg. This year, he's missed the last couple of games with injury. He only has 2 assists in 5 games so far this season, but he has 37 goals and 101 points in 156 games so far in his career. And he's actually a pretty good 2-way center. So offensively, if he can get around like that 60, 70 point mark, but it's also a team getting ahead and trying to track where this player is going and not having to overpay later in the future. And the other big signing, the Florida Panthers signed Brian Boyle to a 1-year, $940K deal, with them sending down Henrik Borgstrom down to the minors. I look for him to fill in that third-line center role and helping out on the PK, and he can play net front on the power play if need be. He had 18 goals last year in 73 games between New Jersey and Nashville, and he just brings like that nice veteran presence to that locker room.
Definitely a big body, that's for sure. So a few other players made some signings. They're minor, but why don't you hit us up with that?
Yeah. So just one other one. Andrew McDonald, who attended Calgary Flames camp on a PTO, signed over in Switzerland today with SC Bern. Now that everything's going on, a lot of these veterans either there are still some just still holding around, like Dion Phaneuf. I haven't even heard his name mentioned by anybody, But there are some veterans where it's just like, okay, now that everybody's salary caps are sort of they know where they're at. Now they can start to sign guys, but there's still some guys that are just like, okay, I don't want to wait, so I'm going to go overseas and get a deal done there. So Andrew McDonald signs over in Switzerland.
Pittsburgh adds some more to the walking wounded, along with a few other people that are put on IR, but a few guys are coming back. Why don't we update the fans on everything that's been happening there?
All right, yeah. So the biggest injury of the past week here, John Tavares is out a couple weeks for the Toronto Maple Leafs. Took Morgan Riley's shot off his hand, and he actually stayed in the game, and he scored a goal in his next shift. But he's out 2 weeks there. For Pittsburgh, Brian Dumoulin got put on injured reserve yesterday, so just add him to the walking wounded over there in Pittsburgh, and who have luckily so far before Dumoulin hadn't had any injuries to their back end before that. With Winnipeg, they got Brian Little back, who had missed the start of the season with a concussion. With the Islanders, Jordan Eberle got put on injured reserve. But Andrew Ladd was practicing in a regular practice jersey today, so he's close to returning from his major injury that he had last season. With the Arizona Coyotes, Jordan Oosterley got put on IR, dealing with concussion symptoms after he took, I believe it was a shot to the head, and he had to be helped off the ice. Also, the New Jersey Devils put Will Butcher on injured reserve, but they also got Andy Green back from injury, so that sort of cancels each guy out, though you'd rather have Butcher in the lineup than Green. With the Washington Capitals, they got Michael Kempny back in the lineup after he, I forget what he tore towards the end of last season, but he came back. But they also lost Richard Panik to an upper body injury, and he was put on long-term injured reserve. Also, a couple other minor ones. David Krejci and Joachim Nordstrom are both out with upper body injuries with Boston. And some good news with Philly, as Nolan Patrick's been skating, I think actually with a tinted visor, I think sort of help with all the migraines and headaches he's been experiencing. Hopefully he can get back on the ice sooner rather than later.
All right, let's have a quick look around the NHL. 3 teams are tied atop the standings right now: Edmonton, Buffalo, and Colorado. Are they all contenders, or which ones are pretenders?
All right. Well, so far, Edmonton has looked great. I watched the second half in the overtime shootout against their game against Winnipeg last night, and man, they're actually pretty good defensively, and they don't give up much. They have the top ranked power play in the league, and their PK is 4th best in the league. So not only are they scoring, they're dominating on special teams. They're getting the goaltending.
Both goalies have a save percentage of over .930. So
yeah, I think Mikko Koskinen had a 49 save or something like that against the Flyers earlier this past week, and then Mike Smith, even though he lost in a shootout, he still got credit for a shutout in that game. And then of course Connor McDavid and those guys keep going off the way they are.
James Neal having a great season.
Yeah, he's up to 9 goals, which is great. And Zach Kassian keeps looking really nice on that top line beside McDavid and Draisaitl. And the Buffalo Sabres, man, well, what can you say? It's they just keep finding a way. And I've actually really liked their depth. It'll be interesting to see because, even though they've been operating with their defense, they can still get better because they've been without Brandon Montour and Zach Bogosian to start this season. They'll have some decisions once when both of those guys come back. What they're going to do with their lineup there. So it's not only that they're scoring, it's they still got a lot of help coming out that way. And then Colorado, the only undefeated team through regulation so far. Last time I checked, they were tied 1-1 in their game today against St. Louis. But they look great, and their backup, Pavel Francouz, who I actually had a couple of question marks on how he was going to perform. And in his second start, he made 44 saves against the Tampa Bay Lightning in their 6-2 when Tyson Jost gained a hattie in that game. But yeah, so far, Edmonton, it's just I'm I'll go along with them, but it's just that goaltending. Same with Buffalo with their goaltending, because it's just both of those teams have shown they can go on hot streaks and then everything can collapse. But right now, out of all those, Colorado would be my favorite there.
Yeah, mine as well. I think Colorado's doing some great things. Their depth looks fantastic. Although Edmonton and Buffalo, we said this last episode that they are getting the coaching and their defensive games look a lot different than they did a year ago. Three teams that are terribly underachieving right now. Which ones are going to come back and start playing the way they can, and which ones might be destined to miss the playoffs this year? San Jose, Dallas, and Tampa Bay.
Yeah, like I think San Jose will find a way. Like I know their goaltending isn't the greatest, but they got so much offense right now, and then adding Patrick Marleau, and I think Erik Karlsson finally started to get his game going a little bit last game. So I think they'll find a way. Dallas is interesting just because they haven't gotten much goal scoring. Like they finally got their second win. They got 2 wins in 10 games to start the season. They finally got their second win against Philly, but they were also outshot 39-16 in that game. So it's not like they're winning convincingly. And that led to, I think, before they went, Anton Khudobin, their backup goalie, went off on the team, saying they weren't playing angry enough. And if you go back to last season where the upper management sounded off on guys like Sagan and Ben, it's not something they can exactly do again, because it's just like eventually it either comes down to the coaching or you got to switch up the personnel if they can't figure things out. And then if you also look at, Minnesota as well, that's sort of been going off, and that led to them having a player.
Jason Zucker calling out the coach.
Yeah. So it's like they had a players only meeting after one of their losses, and then after in the media, Jason Zucker went off saying Bruce needs to be better, I need to be better, the team needs to be better. Like we sort of get what he was getting at, but you sort of don't want to call out the coach. And he retracted the statement sort of after I think the next day or something like that. He sort of explained himself. But I think everybody knew what he was getting at. But it was just one of those things where you gotta think things through or whatever. After when you say it, that's just like, oh, I shouldn't have said that sort of thing. But they did get a big win against Montreal last night. But yeah, it's just like, and even off the ice, the Wild had their sellout streak end at 230 games, which dated all the way back to 2013. So that's some difficulty there. But but Dallas, on paper they got a really good team. It's just they got to figure things out, and like I know Perry had a good game. He had a goal, 3 points in that last game. But those big guns, like you got to bring it. Like Ben's been quiet. Pavelski's been quiet. Klingberg's been quiet. I think Bishop, he's been average, but he was good last game. But yeah, that's a tough team with a lot of expectations to make the playoffs there.
Tampa's the other team that I mentioned. Right now, Tampa Bay is in, I believe, 5th in their division. Yes, behind Boston, Toronto, and Montreal. And maybe on the outside looking in, if playoffs were to start today.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, with Tampa Bay, so their power play's still been good, but their penalty kill, which ranked top in the league last year, is sitting in 28th, operating at only 70%. And like we know earlier in the season, Stamkos had some strong comments on the team's play, and it's just I don't know if they're just trying to make it hard on themselves, so that way later in the season, when things get going, then it's like, all right, we've gone through some tough stuff, but like the depth scoring actually hasn't been as great as it has been from last season. But Vasilevsky hasn't been as strong to start this season. I think his save percentage is below 900 last time I checked. But yeah, it's just they're just sort of just like right in the middle, where like sometimes they play all right, and then other times they're just getting dominated by the opposition. But Tampa Bay, it's like they got so many good players that they're gonna figure things out. But with that penalty kill, they got to get that turned around. But then after that, I think they should be all right.
I'm going to get you to name me 2 teams we haven't talked about already that are trending positively or negatively better than you thought. And while you think about which 2 teams, my first team's the New York Islanders.
Oh, that's exactly what I was
with Barry Trotz still as the coach. Varlamov seems to have found his game a little bit. Grice has been solid since starting this year. And Matt Barzal really is a fun player to watch. Even though he has lips like Kylie Jenner, he still is a fantastic player to watch. I don't know why I turn on a lot of Islander games just to watch him because he's exciting to watch. And they're currently in a playoff spot. They're always hanging around. They never really lose a lot in a row, but they never put together a big enough win streak to gain too much ground. But they're a team that I expect to still grab potentially that 8th playoff spot in the East. My second team I want to talk about is the Anaheim Ducks. John Gibson, even though Pasternak scored 4 goals on him, has played phenomenal this year to start. They're 6-3, and they have, I believe they've surpassed all expectations to start this year. They're getting it from all over their lineup. The youth that they've added hasn't helped them as much as I thought it would, which means their veterans are stepping up, which is a good sign for that team, because if the veterans slump, they might get some of that spark from some of that youth. Sam Steele, Maxime Comtois, and others that they've added to that roster. So, Matt, over to you.
All right. Well, actually, actually, once I started looking over the teams, those are the two that actually jumped out at me. But yeah, just to follow up on the Islanders. Their power play's actually been operating like magnificently. They got the 3rd best power play in the league right now, 33.3%. Of course, as you brought up, Matt Barzal, a huge part of that. And then Varlamov, after a couple tough games, he's found his game. And Grice, of course, as you brought up, has been playing great. And following up on Anaheim, yeah, John Gibson in net he's just so good right now, which is keeping that team up in the standings. But the one team I'll bring up, the Arizona Coyotes, off to a 4-2-1 start. They're on a 3-game win streak. Phil Kessel has been going great. Darcy Kemper and Antti Raanta have been excellent in net. And even actually their special teams have actually been pretty good. Their power play is 6th in the league right now, and their PK is right in the middle of the pack. But yeah, they've been getting off to some good starts. Nick Schmaltz has absolutely been ripping it up to start the season. And one team that's sort of been middling that I thought was going to be a little bit better to start the season has been Florida. They're 3-2-3 to start the season. Bobrovsky hasn't been the greatest to start the season. Neither has their defensive play in front of them. But that was a team that I thought was going to get off to a hotter start, just with all the moves they've made. Just some disappointing starts. I thought teams were going to be a little bit better. Philadelphia, after that 2-0 start, I thought, well, even though they're winning big tonight, so they'll move back up to 500. But
they're always a team, though, that bounces back and forth.
Yeah. Them and the Chicago Blackhawks, I thought they were going to be a little bit better. I like their depth. I like their defense. I still think they need to use Robin Leonard a little bit more than Corey Crawford, just in my opinion. I know Crawford's played okay, but I think Leonard should be the starter there, just with the way they split starts. But yeah, those are the teams that have jumped out to me. But otherwise everybody else is just sort of right where we expected them to be in the standings right now.
Well, to wrap up tonight before we end the show, again, hit the like button, hit the share button, whether you're on Facebook or YouTube. Matt, end tonight's show with some thoughts on the play of Marc-Andre Fleury.
Yeah, so you want to talk about a guy that's just like the most likable guy in the NHL right now. So in his return to Pittsburgh, he had a 29-save shutout. But if you saw, like, in warm-ups, he was giving some guys some bumps, some Crosby and Letang, where they were sort of playing pass and shots. And after the game, Malkin in the post-game interview, interrupting his post-game interview. And it's just crazy how he can be so loose and all that, and then just go out and perform every night like that he's done so far this season. But yeah, it just shows how much like that he means to that organization and to all those guys. And it is disappointing that he isn't actually still with Pittsburgh. But yeah, it's just so fun to watch and see how much those guys mean to him.
I don't know how many times I've seen him go in the splits and make an unbelievable save this year.
And it's always been that right. And it's always been that right toe. It's like I swear I've seen him like make 10 saves where he's just like look like he's out of position, and all of a sudden that toe just comes out of nowhere. to rob somebody. But yeah, it's like the only thing is they just got to find him a backup goalie right now to get him some rest. But yeah, the way
Oscar Dansk in net tonight, as Malcolm Subban is still on the IR, and Dansk in his season debut, anyways, for Vegas, is getting shell shocked a bit. Right
now. We'll see if Garrett Sparks gets a call up there next for Vegas. But otherwise, just some other quick stuff to quickly announce. Paul Maurice got his 700th career win in the NHL last night, and some suspensions and fines. Valentin Zykov with Vegas got a 20-game suspension for performance-enhancing drugs. Both Vegas, unlike the Nate Schmidt suspension last year, where they supported the player, they were totally against Zykov in this suspension. But yeah, there was no appeal, so he'll serve out the 20-game suspension and 2 fines. Darren Helm with Detroit got a $5,000 fine for a vicious slash to the back of the shin on Elias Lindholm, and Nick Ritchie got a $4,100 fine for roughing on Vladimir Sobotka, which sort of came off a whistle, and he just sort of came up from behind Sobotka and attacked him. And Linus Ullmark, which we brought up earlier, he came in with the blocker at Ritchie. So, but other than that, only 5 games tonight on the schedule. We'll have all the highlights up on our Facebook page at B&B Hockey Talk. Tomorrow will be a lot busier schedule. I think there's 10 games, including the Canucks taking on the Detroit Red Wings as they end their road trip. And we will be back on Wednesday for a Canuck Talk, as there will be a lot. There'll be a lot to go over from the weekend's game against New Jersey and the New York Rangers. And we'll see if there'll be any fireworks between Detroit and Vancouver after the way that game ended last week when Detroit was in Vancouver.
Absolutely. So once again, I'm Aaron. He's Matt. Thanks for listening, everybody. And like you said, we'll be back Wednesday with our Vancouver Canucks talk. We'll be back again on Friday with Around the NHL segment. We appreciate you guys for listening, watching, wherever you may be, however you may listen to us. And, of course, we always thank you for your support. So we'll see you again this week, and have an excellent evening.